Hello everyone, my name is Jeff Rolka. Thank you for checking out my video. This is questions from comments 26. I'm going to do my best to make this a weekly segment here on the channel in the hopes that I can answer questions and help you sing your best. Let's just get this out of the way right now. The lava lamp has been on since 8 o'clock this morning. It is now, what time is it now? 2 in the afternoon. It's just cold in here, and that's also why I am not wearing the shirt. It's just cold. So I did my best with the lava lamp. And I know I'm not wearing my normal shirt here, but I do have other clothing aside from that shirt, so this is some of it. It does happen to also be black, that's kind of my thing, but that's neither here nor there. Let's get into some questions that you very generously shared with me. Chaptered, so if you want to skip around, by all means do. Would appreciate it if you listen to the whole thing and do consider subscribing. All right. Questions from comments 26. Great advice, thank you. What advice would you give for a situation where you don't have a chance to warm up before singing? Plan ahead a little bit better is really the first thing that comes to mind. I have a hard time imagining being in a situation where there was absolutely no kind of sort of forecasting, foreshadowing, if you will, that you might need to sing or might be called upon to sing. For example, a birthday party. You're probably going to sing happy birthday. It's probably going to happen. A karaoke bar. You know, if you're going to it, it's entirely plausible that you may end up singing karaoke despite whatever intentions you may have. Plan ahead for those situations as much as possible. In the event that someone hands you a mic and says, "Here, sing this," I would hand it politely back to them and say, "Thanks, but I'm a professional and I generally have to warm up for things like this." Or I might say, "Whoa, hold your roll. Give me 10 minutes, I'll be right back." Something like that. But in general, plan ahead or work it into the situation. Always be polite, always be professional, and that's perhaps the bottom line. Be a professional, treat your voice like a professional. Professionals sing when they're ready. They sing when they're prepared. They can sing on rather short notice. That is true. And there's another side to it too, which is that if you have to sing right now, then pick something you know you could basically warm up on that doesn't really require a warm-up. Those are my thoughts around that topic. First and foremost would be to plan ahead. Second, if you have absolutely no choice, and it's really difficult for me to imagine what that scenario might be, then choose a song that you could basically warm up on or use as a warm-up. This next question is quite long. So I'm going to basically stop and start throughout this process answering the question as we go. When I am learning a song with just the vowels, should I be thinking in the missing consonants? Yes, that's actually how I practice those exercises where you're working on vowel alignment, but you take the consonants out. So you might sing, like let's say the melody line is, oh, I don't know, "That tree looks real nice." I know, super awesome lyrics, right? That tree looks real nice. So in my mind, I'm thinking all of those consonants, but then aligning the vowels in the practice. So yes, I suspect I tend more towards just leaving out the consonants. So if "from every star" goes to, and then they have the vowels there, what I am feeling is the beginning of a transition to M between the O, from and eh. Yeah, I can dig that. Be careful. We're going to get into this more in the question, but that already sort of suggests the idea of singing into the diphthongs, which I would caution you against. Okay, so I guess that answers my own question. I kind of think that you did. Now, if the consonants are going to color the vowel when I put them in, should I anticipate that and color the vowel and introduce diphthongs prior to introducing the consonants? I don't think so. And I would also challenge that concept, specifically this. If the consonants are going to color the vowel, the consonants don't have to color the vowel. Not at least in my opinion. Now, I can understand why we might think that, when we have a diphthong or something to that, especially diphthongs. Like diphthongs are the largest culprits. For example, well, I'll take the phrase that you had, I'll make up my own melody, I'll use the same one I used a second ago. From every star. One could make the argument that that R is going to color that last vowel, and so I should introduce it. In other words, sing into the diphthong. From every star. But unless you were going for a specific effect to have that kind of sound, I would only use that diphthong at the very last moment while you are ending the phrase. From every star. And you're out. Certainly, I can imagine scenarios, particularly I'm thinking musical theater, where they might want, the director especially, might want the character to have a certain affectation to their singing, and they might ask for more of that diphthong. And in those instances, we give it to them. That's what professionals do. In general, however, I would not sing into the diphthong. I would wait for the last moment, and in that way, it doesn't color the vowel. It's just that last moment where we are terminating the phrase or terminating that word. So I sort of question that that concept there, that there is an inevitability that some consonants are inherently going to change the vowels. Certainly, another example would be like an A sound, which is really an ah and a Y when you combine them. A. There, we have to find a comfortable balance between the two. Now, if that's what you're talking about, then yes, we want a comfortable balance, but in that case, we're going to only go fully on into the diphthong when we're coming to the end of the phrase, similar to the R sound. So if we were to sing, just by way of example again, do not nay, where at the very end we get that E sound, A, to end the phrase. Do not nay. You can hear how much I'm leaning on the eh sound in that vowel. Do not nay. And then really singing into and through the diphthong with a great degree of brevity to end the phrase. Yes, it's a bit more of a balancing act there, but still moving more towards the open vowel sound to sustain the phrase. Continuing on with this question, should I even introduce the consonants progressively, beginning with the most sonorant, nasals, and ending with the plosives? I'm going to keep on going with this question now. What about using less, can't make out that word, consonants with the same articulation as the ultimate target? And in the case of combined consonants, one at a time or all together. I'm hearing vo, me, vis, da as one intermediate example. Sorry, that seems like a lot of questions, but it is just when and how to introduce the consonants after the vowel-only stage. Thank you as ever. You're very welcome, and I do hope that I've addressed the parts of your question thus far adequately, and if not, do use the comments. This came in on the comments, so feel free to follow up with me on this. The thing about the remainder of your question is that when we start to get that specific in how we're using consonants, the answer is both yes and no. It kind of depends on where you are at with your practice already. In other words, are you using so much consonants in your singing in general that it is disrupting the flow of air and making your phrases not as legato or tenuto as they could be? If that is the case, then waiting to introduce them might help you become more legato, and then you could perhaps practice more with this sort of demi-consonant approach. Equally, there is an argument to be made for practicing with the consonants to get a really great feel for how they feel and what it is you are looking to diminish or bring down when you're working on the vowel practice. I think a lot of the enunciation exercises that singers often do is in that service to make us aware of the shapes of our lips, our tongues, our jaws. When we are articulating certain consonants, we can learn what they feel like. We can learn the positions of those soft tissues and tongue, and then work to attenuate them so that we get better phrasing. There is also no small amount of consideration that needs to be given for genre. Some genres have a larger degree of intelligibility required in our performances. I am again thinking about musical theater. Musical theater folks, in my opinion, have one of the more difficult jobs as vocalists because there is a requirement for a high degree of intelligibility. We have to understand them when they are singing. That's going to move the story forward. At the same time, they have some extremely dynamic and challenging parts that they are often asked to perform. There isn't another genre that so consistently requires that kind of performance. The pop rock world allows for a wide range of vowel affectations or consonant usage or omission. Even in the classical and opera world, there is a much wider degree of flexibility when it comes to vowels, particularly above the secondo passaggio, and the usage of consonants, that they can attenuate them to facilitate the execution of the melody, the execution of the vowels that carry the pitches. In musical theater, though, we really have to have both. And I'm not this is just me talking about my observations of these genres. I enjoy a musical theater piece as much as the next individual. Certainly not as much as many, probably more than quite a few. I guess what I'm trying to say here is I don't want to sound like I'm giving preferential treatment or something like that to musical theater. It's just that when I look at their performance practice, I feel that it is particularly demanding. At any rate, your questions are amazing. I absolutely love them. I hope that I have addressed them adequately. Feel free to follow up with me in the comments, ask more questions, tell me if you think I'm right, tell me if you think I'm wrong. I look forward to kind of carrying on the conversation about this because I think that it is an aspect of our performance that can have pretty immediate positive consequences for us. In other words, really very easily attainable, fast, good changes to our phonation, to our singing. But too frequently they get overlooked, or the habitual way of singing the consonants just overwhelms us and we can't connect the vowels the best way that we could in those situations. So great question. Thank you for asking. Hey, Jeff, is it a good idea to get an in-person vocal coach? Sure. I mean, it depends a lot on the coach, and it depends a lot on what you're trying to do. We want to think about, I would suggest that you think about the right tool for the right job. Going to a hardcore opera teacher when you're really trying to do Bob Dylan covers, they might help you, they might not. I mean, really, great that they have that technical expertise. Not great if they only want you to use your voice in that way, and that is it. That's the only way it's going to work. Too frequently this happens, and vocalists who would seek out instruction can't get it for no, in my opinion, no really good reason. There's no reason why those two things can't exist together. That's a large degree why I made my channel, because the techniques that I study are taken from bel canto. They're taken from opera techniques. The exercises, many of which you will find similar exercises written in Richard Miller's books. They're not verbatim necessarily, because I've put some of my own twists and my own thoughts into them from studying other disciplines. But that's where all of these exercises come from on the channel. I would posit that that is why they help, why they work, because they are designed based upon known techniques. So if you can find someone that can work with you, that is familiar maybe with your genre and is familiar with the process of helping to train a voice, but also helping to train to be a part of that genre, then that might be a really, really great thing to do. It would certainly, my hope would be that it would certainly speed up the process. There is not necessarily a large degree of difference that you would find between an in-person coach and what you would find in the exercises on my channel. The difference is going to come in that the coach, hopefully, will listen to your voice, hear the vowels that are in alignment, and then take those vowels and capitalize on their alignment, using them to influence the alignment of those that are not well aligned. That's what I'm trying to do in the exercises, but of course, I haven't necessarily heard you singing. And so if I heard you doing it, I might change the order of vowels. I might suggest a different exercise that, again, capitalizes on what you do well and influences those vowels that need a little bit of help. All of that being said, do you absolutely have to have an in-person coach? I think that now more than ever, that is a question of, I'm not so sure. There are tremendous amounts of resources. Certainly there's my channel, but there's loads of other instruction out there. There are so many resources. The largest difficulty that you might encounter in taking those resources and being able to implement those practices into your own voice is a very simple idea, which is we don't know what we do not know. If you cannot hear the difference in an E vowel when it is well aligned and when it is not well aligned, then the exercises will, doing them certainly will help, but it could be more effective. In other words, it could go more quickly if you can learn to hear those differences. And that just goes on and on and on as you work your way through all of the various vowels. So now more than ever, there are so many resources with great observation skills, with some additional study aside from your vocal training. In other words, studying the voice without singing, reading a bit about human vocal production, listening to other vocalists and the sounds of their cardinal vowels, and working towards finding that kind of alignment in your own voice. Great observation skills required. But now more than ever, I think that is possible, and you could do it. That being said, in my opinion, in-person vocal coaching should help you speed the process along and get to your artistic desires, like the artistic way that you want to express yourself, as quickly as possible. That, in my opinion, would be the role of lessons. and how they could help. So to make it go faster, hopefully more effective in a shorter period of time. Great question. Thank you for asking that. A couple more. Hi, Jeff. I recently went to the ears, nose, and throat doctor because I thought I developed nodules from oversinging. I sing as a profession, so it is a lot. My voice has been hoarse and in pain. The doc found out my vocal cords are just swollen. I drink plenty of water and don't talk much because I just want to be able to sing again, but it doesn't seem to be getting better. What should I do? So, a couple things. I'm really sorry that you're dealing with this. It is a total drag. It is extremely unnerving, and I'm just sorry that you're having to deal with it. It is a very common thing among voice professionals, so you are not alone. I had a partial vocal edema a couple months ago. I noticed it. I only realized it because I was having a more and more difficult time demonstrating upper register transitions, and I couldn't figure out exactly why, and it wasn't changing, despite being on a fairly pretty good practice regimen, and nothing was happening for me. I can't find, unfortunately, I had meant to take a video of my vocal folds, and I wanted to do a video here on the channel, but I messed up the recording on my iPhone, and I just took a picture of it. And I was going to bring the picture here, and if I can find it somehow, I will fly it in, but I couldn't find it when I was doing pre-production on this video, so I might not even be able to have that. But what I wanted to show you, and again, if I find it, I'll fly it in. When you look at my vocal folds, there is just the slightest amount of a curvature in the left fold, and that is the edema, that is the swelling. It is about as minor as it could be. And the reason why I relate all this, now I haven't seen, and I don't really want to see, I'm not a doctor, so don't like send me a photo of your vocal folds. I haven't seen the level of edema that you're dealing with or swelling that you have going on. Mine was incredibly minor. It took me weeks to get over this. I spent a period of 3 or 4 days initially without talking at all. And then I talked only a very small amount for the next week. And since then, I consider very carefully how much I use my voice. In other words, how much I talk when I am not teaching, singing, or making videos. The doctor told me that it would be fine. It would just take not less than a month before things would be back to normal. She was right. She said to me, however, that I needed to more highly prioritize the usage of my voice. In other words, more carefully consider when I sing or talk at all. And so that is the advice I would share with you. It is going to take some weeks. You might consider starting off with an extremely rigorous cessation of talking and singing if you can. She told me it was 4 weeks for it to resolve. She was right. The edema on my vocal fold was incredibly small. I do not know the level of swelling that you are dealing with. It might be that in 4 weeks it'll be fine. It might be 8. You might follow up with your ENT about that to get an estimate on the time to recovery for you. I believe, if I remember from your user ID correctly, that you're a male vocalist. My ENT did also tell me that nodes for male vocalists are really quite rare. So it's the edema that we have to concern ourselves with more than getting a node. It is more in female voices that they will get nodules. So rest a bit easier, but again, check with your ENT. That being said, you're probably going to need to rest. You may need to consider talking even less than you already do once you've recovered. When you do start your recovery, be slow about it. Stay in a very, very comfortable mid-range. Don't even think about registration events for a while. Don't even think about the zona di passaggio. I'm talking like a major third really. You know, so for me, for example, when I was starting my recovery, that's about where I was. I stayed about there, and I didn't really go much outside that range. And then over time, everything opened up quite nicely, and it's all fine now. So talk to your ENT, get an estimate of time, prioritize your voice. You're a professional. This is your livelihood, I presume. Treat it as such, basically. Prioritize your voice and your vocal health. And finally, how to sing the keys for tenor to start a song. I'm afraid I know this is kind of like a non-question. I really don't know what it is you're asking, I'm afraid. So if you would please rephrase that or be more specific, or let me know what you're thinking about. It's not so much like, I think what they're trying to get at here is like, what's my key, or what's the key for tenor range vocalist, or something to that effect. And it just doesn't work like that. It depends, the key that will be best for any voice is the relationship of the melody and the melodic notes, the overall range or tessitura that the melody covers, and how that fits into the keys and the FOC of the vocalist who's singing the song. So, for example, let's just say that you have, let's just make it easy on ourselves. Let's say that the melody of the song has the range of 1 octave. 1 octave right there. In this case, D to D. If it's a ballad, that might be a nice place for a tenor. If it's a ballad that has like a really kind of dramatic moment in it, then you might want to put it here, because that F is probably going to be available. Like you're going to want to put more energy into that for those high points. So that might make for a more dramatic moment. But equally, if it's really dramatic or emphatic or something, then you might even go to G. If it's, on the other hand, wanting to be sleepy or quiet or tiresome, then you could try here to here, unless that C is getting too low. This B or that B flat might really get too low unless you want that kind of sleepy, kind of almost vocal fry kind of a feel for the tenor on those notes at the bottom of the range of the song. And this is true for all the different FOCs. Every FOC has its registration events in slightly different places. We need to know where those are. We need to know the melody. We need to know the range that it covers. I do hope all of this helps. Thank you so much for sharing your questions with me. Keep them coming. My name's Jeff. Take really good care of your voices. Enjoy singing. And hopefully we'll see you again. Bye.